Hi guys, welcome back to another video. In this week's video is going to be all about our tree crops here, our wind protection trees, our fruit trees, our soft berry bushes, and it's been really windy over the last week or 10 days, dry but windy, so it was really difficult to shoot any content. So I have a lot of the work done. I just wanted to knuckle down and get it done, but I'm just going to show you what I'm up to and how I'm treating the different trees on the farm. One thing I forgot to mention is that I will be doing a YouTube live to celebrate getting to 2,000 subscribers, which I promised I'd give something back for you guys spending all that time watching me. I'm going to do a YouTube live on Sunday coming. It's going to be at 6 p.m. Irish time, and I'll be on there. If you want to come on and ask any questions you want, I'll answer away, and I'll be on there and answer any questions that's there. So if you just want to catch up on that, it's going to be Sunday. Sunday is the I think it's the 19th, February. So Sunday the 19th at 6 p.m. Irish time, I'll be doing a YouTube live. I'll see you there, hopefully. The best place to start here is at the start, I think. And one thing I found my tree crops have taught me over the last few years is the thing about patience. I'm in a really good position now where I can propagate from my own stock, but that's taken a couple of years for that to happen. I set it up and just left it, and I kind of knew in the back of my head my future self would thank me, so I'm thanking myself now because I've got all these soft fruit bushes and fruit trees here that I can propagate off, but I just let them sit there and mature for the last 2 years, so now we're in a position that I can do that. But the big thing for me is I've meticulously recorded a lot of data on the farm, so I've got quite difficult for you to see with the light, but I've got spreadsheets that tell me every tree and every bush, their position on the farm. If I flip these around, you might see. So I got an Excel sheet with all my tree lanes in it, and in the tree lanes it tells me exactly what trees are planted there. It tells me the variety of tree, the year it was planted, and then my berry bushes, it tells me all my different varieties. And so I use this information now to make this is like a cheat sheet for me to take out to the field. I'm going to go and mark out, because in my line of black currants on the south side, the first 15 are Ben Cannon, then it's Bertarian, and then Ben Stark, then Mailing Jet is the last one on the north side. So I'll go out and mark these in the field, so with some white posts so I know where they are. Then I'll go and take all my cuttings, and I'm going to use a numbering system here. So all the cuttings for say the Mailing Jet are going to be number 4, and so when I label them in their propagation pots, they'll be labeled as number 4. I'll take a picture of this cheat sheet, and so in a year's time, you know, I'll know exactly what one is, because I'll want to keep all my Mailing Jets together for ease of harvesting and stuff, and just for knowing where everything is. So recording data, and then I'll update this if I plant in, you know, if I go along, there's 15 Mailing Jet there now in the north side. I probably want to put in another 15 to double that up. So I'm going to take, I've marked it here, I want to take 20 cuttings. And hopefully I should get 15 out of that. Maybe not, who knows. But I'll update that. Say I get 20 out of it, or say 18 of them take, and I come along and put 15 of them in, then I'll update my sheet here to say I've got 30. The reason why I'm doing this, because in my head, I'm going to have a lot of berry bushes and fruit trees. I'm never going to be able to pick them all myself, at least I don't think so, and my plan isn't generally to employ someone else or multiple people to pick them. So I'm going to probably have it where like people can come to the farm and pick their own in the summertime. So I want to have it kind of labeled so people know what fruits are where, and you know, when to pick them and what they're suitable for. So I'm thinking of having a big map of the Silvio pastures and have just like numbers or color coded or whatever, but some sort of system down the line. So that's why I'm generally trying to keep stuff semi-organized. There's only so much organization you can do, but yeah, that's the general plan there. So now I got my cheat sheet. I can take this out to the field and I know exactly where to harvest. The other thing I do is I go to my library and I pull out any books I have. I have a few good books on, because I'm going to need to be pruning now. Today is the 2nd of February, so I would have read all these books already, but I go through them and kind of fine tune my game plan. I also go online, check some videos, and I kind of make a pruning game plan. I'll be pruning my apple trees, my pear trees. I won't do my plums or my cherries because there's a mold. What's the name of it? Silver something or other. It's typically better to leave them till later in spring because there's a big chance they'll get a fungal mold if I prune them now. So I make a general game plan for that as well. Put that on my cheat sheet so the day that I'm going to do my pruning, everything's fresh in my mind. I'm also working on really kickstarting my gardening. It's actually quite funny because today this a real legend in Irish farming is Klaus. Klaus actually landed unannounced to the farm today. He was in the area working and he called in to see me, so it was really cool to have one of the heroes call by the farm just to check it out. But yeah, I'm trying to get, I really want to focus on the garden this year, growing really good food. I remember as a young boy really wanting to grow vegetables, and I was just fascinated by the whole concept of putting seeds in the ground and like watching food grow. I suppose I never could find anybody to show me or to do it with me. And this year I really want, my goal on the farm is to kind of do myself something, and I really want to put in a really nice garden. So I'm looking at the options of that now. I have kind of the area picked out, and I'll probably do quite a few videos on the evolution of this. So it's really a homestead garden and not commercial. I want it to be homestead, and maybe have an educational aspect where I can take kids to the farm and teach them about growing stuff as well. So that's more the mindset. It's to grow food for me and my family, and maybe plant seeds in kids' minds is the main goal of it. I want it to be as manageable and low maintenance as possible. So I'm looking at different options there, but I'll probably make a kind of series of videos on that as well, because I'm really excited about it, and it's something I want to just have a really nice, sharp, cool looking garden. And I'm really glad I got the pond in, because I think that's all going to tie into it. Here I am trying to prep some of the medium to grow my soft fruit cuttings in. So this is 2-year-old compost, so it is actually, look at the floor of the polytunnel here. This is what it looked like 2 years ago. Now I didn't do a great job composting this, but as you can see, it's not too bad now. I want to sift out, there is some bigger particles in it, like there's pieces of wood like this here in it. I want to get them out. So as you can see, I'm just sifting it through here, and that leaves us a much finer medium. And I think I'll need to mix this with a bit of sand, because a lot of soft fruit they like well drained soil. So I think I'll mix this with a bit of sand, but I'll go through that when I get to it. My job now is just to sift out this here till I get enough to fill up all my pots, and then any of the big stuff that I get, I just tip in this here, and it goes back into the compost pile to rot down more. Because I'm using this as potting compost, I want to get everything out. If I was just using this in a veg bed, I wouldn't worry too much, because these could break down slowly in the bed over time. Or if I wanted loads of this, I would probably make up like a rotating drum with a screen, and I would just shovel it in, and it would turn and turn. But I only need to follow this fish box, so this will do no problem. I got my compost. So I've just split it up into 3 tubs here just to make it easier to mix up. So this is our homemade compost. This is just some building sand. I want to have some good drainage in this, so I've put in maybe like 25% building sand. I'll see when I've it mixed up how it looks. And then this is the one time I do advocate synthetic NPK fertilizer. This is slow releasing pelletized NPK, and I want to put a bit of that in there because these cuttings are going to be in these root trainers, and the root trainers aren't particularly massive. Now, all going well, they'll come out either this autumn, like November, or following March, and get planted. And there should be enough food in this to do them to then, but just in case, I'm putting in the NPK, and maybe I'll leave them in the root trainers for longer, so they're going to have food in there to feed them. So that's why that's in there, and it's slow releasing, so that should do the trick. So now I just got to mix these up. I'm just using, these are what's known as root trainers, and what they do is, these are just like a book, and I'll take my tape off, and there guys, see. So what happens is they train the roots to go down these grooves when it's closed up, and then they come out the bottom. So they come out there in the air prune, and sometimes you'll get versions with holes here, but the main thing is the air prune, and you don't want to, when I fit this together, you're supposed to get a special frame to sit them in, but Jesse, you don't want these guys sitting on the ground like that, because the roots will just grow in the ground and they'll get stuck. So you want it slightly off the ground. Out, Jess. Here, here's your stone. I've got them sitting, I use these baskets just to hold them together, because when you fill them with soil, they press out, so you need something to keep them pushed together, like you see there. And then they're just sitting on a little piece of mesh, so the roots just hang down. That mesh is about 2 inches off the ground, so the roots will air prune and they'll never get pot bound. That's the beauty about these, your plants will never get pot bound. And then very important to label everything, so I just put a bit of tape on here, and then I can write my number on there. What I will do is I will take photographs of them as well, so because these labels, this tape could get worn over time, so I'll kind of know. I'll write on my baskets each side A and B, and I'll take track of that way. And I generally take photos of a lot of stuff, that's how I record a lot of stuff. And I was also busy getting all my soft fruit cuttings ready for propagation. Got them all labelled up, and again, like the pruning of trees, there seems to be 100 different ways to propagate berries, but I've just left 3 to 4 buds in the top, cleaned everything else down, and sat them in there. And now I just got to keep this not wet but moist or damp, and leave them here until they start to put on a bit of growth. You can see the honey, these are all honey berries. They've already started, when I was harvesting them, some of them had their shoots on already. We've got gooseberry, that's some Joshua berry, honeyberry. These are all currants here, white currant, black currant, and red currant, and more honeyberry. But yeah, we'll just keep an eye on them now over the summer, make sure they stay watered when they need it, and happy days. This is my pile of really mature compost. Now I'm going to be putting in my veg beds over there this spring, so I want to keep a lot of this compost for this. I would normally feed my fruit trees and berry bushes with this compost. Now I'm going to have loads of compost next year and the year after. I'm going to have surplus amounts. So just seen something in the pond there, sorry. So this year what I'm using for feeding my fruit trees and berry bushes is some seaweed. We collected from down at the beach. We have the rights to harvest seaweed from this farm, and I'll show you what we're doing out here. So for our nut trees, these are some cob nuts. We're just giving them a good mulching of seaweed. And for my fruit trees, these are all my fruit trees are they're in semi-vigorous rootstock. Most of them are on MM106 or Quince A, which will be like a half standard. Now, I'm definitely no fruit tree pruning expert, so don't be taking advice from me. But because it's one of these things that there's like, everybody has a different way of doing it. My philosophy kind of is now at this point, I used to worry about it, but my philosophy is, you know what, that tree knows how to be a tree. I mean, I can kind of do my best to help it or give it what I think, but I'm not too worried. So I'm trying to go for a standard shape. I really want to get the stalks here, so our half standard is like a 5 foot high trunk, and that'd be good for me. A standard I think is 6 foot or thereabouts. I want to get the lower branches up so that when we're grazing around them, the goats, sheep and cows aren't doing too much nibbling on the bottom branches. So that's why I'm kind of going for that general shape. A lot of trees when you buy them they're pruned more to be going into like a goblet or a bowl, so they're open centered. I'm going for more of a half standard, which is more like a triangle at the end of the day. Again, just making it up as I'm going along kind of, but that's the plan here. One thing I did do was I upgraded my tree guards. This is just some land drainage pipe, and I've done that because 2 springs ago I'd gotten some hair damage, and I was using they're the smaller, I think I can see one over here because here's a tree that I haven't done yet. I was using smaller tree guards, and about 2 years ago in the spring I had some hair damage. You can see this was the tree guards I was using, and they didn't kill any trees. They did bring bark, not all the way around, but probably 3 to 4 down the other end of the field, and the trees actually put on new shoots. Now you got to be careful that it's not a shoot coming from the rootstock, but the trees actually put up new shoots below the where the hares had eaten them. So what I've done now is I've basically lost maybe 2 years of my production there because I had to cut the main tree off and go with the new shoot. And I think I've actually got a healthy fox population now. You know, I know that if any of my chickens are not where they're meant to be, the foxes get them, and I think that's good, because if I have any kind of any stuff, rotten food or anything, I leave it out in the woods for the foxes. And I think they're bringing the hare population back into check, because I hadn't had any issues with the hares this last 2 years, but it's on my mind, so that's why I'm upgrading the here, Jesse, I'll throw this for you. Drop it, go. She loves sticks, stones, anything, but it's always in the back of my mind. So as a kind of peace of mind for me, this is purely for peace of mind for me. I'm going putting on these bigger tree guards, and in hindsight, those are the tree guards I would have put on from day one. But you live it, you learn it. I've already been along here and I've pruned all my trees. I wanted to get that done kind of fairly lively because the colder weather is going to disappear soon, and new buds are going to form. So majority of my trees have done well. I'd say I've lost maybe 3 to 4%, and then I've just replanted them with other trees. There are some guys like this guy here, he's struggling, but you know, he's put on some good growth last year, so we'll give him a good chance. If people are wondering, is the seaweed going to be like highly salty and have a negative effect on bacteria and stuff? It definitely probably does have some, but I know like in Ireland and probably a lot of islands where there's very limited nutrient resources because they mightn't have that many animals. They've been using seaweed for years and years and years to bring nutrients onto the land. So my take on that is, yes, it might have a little negative effect, but the benefit of all the good stuff that's in the seaweed will outweigh the maybe negative effect initially of it being a little bit more salty. I try to harvest as fresh a seaweed as possible, so after a big storm you get a lot of fresh seaweed washed up. That's the easiest stuff to harvest. I wouldn't be bothered harvesting like live seaweed, that's just too much work. But typically in the autumn and the spring we get big storms tear through, and you'll get a lot, like big windrows of seaweed will wash up on the beach. And like I was saying earlier, this farm actually has the rights. There's plots all along the shore. All the farms adjacent to it would have the rights to harvest seaweed, as well as the rights to harvest peat in some of the bogland somewhere as well. A lot of farms around this part of Ireland would have those rights attached to the farmland themselves. Nobody ever harvests seaweed. Well, one time it would have been a very important resource. Probably 50, 100 years ago. Those rights would have been very important for farms. Then for a long time nobody gave a shit about them, but now that there's all these new uses for seaweed and kelp and methane emissions, they're starting to become more of a demand on them again. But where I harvest my seaweed, where I go fishing, I've never seen anyone harvesting there. I do see the odd people down looking for harvesting shellfish and stuff off the rocks, but it's not that common. You start to see spring growth is starting to come back in. The colour of the grass is hard to see in the camera, but there's more of a lusher greener colour coming in the grass, so it's telling me there's new growth has started. we're still a bit early. Temperatures started to warm up a little bit. Sometimes they call this full spring because it's only early February. Temperatures can dip down again. Historically, our last frost date here is the 14th of April. So don't be getting my hopes up yet, but it's really nice to feel things getting warmed up, seeing some life coming. Like, you can see these honeyberries are starting to put on a bit of new shoots, and it's just really good for the heart to see things coming back to life. So what I'm doing for our berries, last spring, summer, our interns, Lorena's and Ernest, have done a really good job. They composted all the berry bushes, all the trees, and that's why I'm kind of happy that I'm not too worried about I'm not actually going to put any compost on these guys. And what I'm doing is I'm using sheep's wool. The reason why we're using wool is it's free to take away pretty much. This wool had gotten wet. It's horned wool, which is really no value anyway, and it got wet, so the wool merchant wouldn't even take it. The reason why we're using the wool, wood chips are crazy expensive now to use wood chips. I do have a wood chipper. I could make my own wood chip, but I have to make that wood chip. I need a tractor. I'm burning diesel, and this is way quicker. I mean, you can throw one fleece down in literally 30 seconds, so I can fire this out. I'm happy. This wool I've trialed it, tends to last about 6 months or so before it really kind of rots away. So my plan is to do it twice in the year. I'll do it now. I've got wool from last summer. I'll do it now, and once the shearing season starts, I'll do it again midsummer. And it's just for these berry bushes. They're still, say these honeyberries now are 2 years old, and the grasses towards midsummer can still outcompete them, grow over them. And it's a good thing for hiding the fruit from birds, but then it can kind of get away from them. Now what I am thinking of doing this year is, come after berry harvest, is letting the chickens, integrating the tree lane into my chicken pen or my chicken paddock while I'm passing through, just because I do think maybe slugs and that will like to live in around the wool. I'm not sure, maybe they won't, but just to generally give it a bit of a clean up and let the chickens knock down the grass, because what happens here in the summertime, the grass in the tree lanes really gets out of control. And I'm thinking, after I take the berries off, the chickens, they shouldn't really bother the berry bush leaves too much because there's grass everywhere anyway. And I'm definitely going to trial it out anyway and see how it goes. There'll probably be pros and cons to it, and I'll do a few trials and then determine if it's worth continuing or worth shelving it. But one thing I am conscious of is inside my tree lanes rarely ever gets any disturbance. And I was thinking I'd never let the cows or sheep in there, or the goats, because they would probably eat all the leaves. But the trees are going to be too high for the chickens to be bothered with, and so it's only really the berry bushes. And if I've already harvested the berries, then that should be fine. Just what I'm kind of thinking, it'd be worth something trying. It's going to be really windy, but this is where I collect our seaweed. And I think, now I may be wrong, but I think these poles, they're in there a long time, but I think they were to catch seaweed so that it could be harvested. There's not much here right now. There's a little bit. Well, it actually looks like there's nothing here, but I'll tell you, I'll be well fed up wheelbarrowing, and I'll not be a little bit along there. So I just take the fresh stuff that came in, we shake it to make sure we get any critters out of it, just because we want to leave them in their home. So I give it a good shake before I lift it, and yeah, I'll take maybe 10 or 12 wheelbarrows, and I'll be kind of fed up, and Jess will do a run, and yeah, do a little bit every evening. I'm just in my tree lane here, and I planted in, these are all Silka here in this tree lane, but every other one I put in Normandy spruce then in between, and they just done nothing. There's a little Normandy spruce there. So what I've come here, I'm actually going to change these out and put Silka in their place. And what I actually done is I go to forestry. We've got lots of planted forest trees around here, and in the forestries they've got like the logging roads to take them out, and generally alongside the road these guys grow, so they're actually in the way, because the forestry might be like 20-30 years old, and these guys start growing, and they're going to be in the way. They're right on the side of the road. They grow, like if this is the road, they grow here, and then they're in the way of the trucks coming and going, so they generally come along and cut them. So I just pull them out, and we'll replant them, saves me buying them. And I'm also doing a job to help the forestry as well. Got these guys all in. Some of the bigger ones, I've just given them a little tree stake, just to give them a chance to get bare in. But there was already trees here. I've already inoculated this with mycorrhizal fungi. So I just dug a nice big hole and got the roots in there. I literally picked them out of the ground 20 minutes before I done this. Took them down here, popped them in. So the roots are still moist, the ground's still good. So that should take fine. And here's another guy I popped in. I've actually left the little Normandy spruce, but I don't think he's going to go anywhere. So that's an original one. That one's been in a few years. This is a new guy, and so on. You can see some of them are starting to take off. Our tree lanes are really doing well. I trimmed up all my alder, started to get it growing up. I'm really happy with how they're looking. I'm just working on my alder trees here. I've got hundreds of alder trees on the farm, and their main job is wind protection. And now I planted these as 1-year-old bare root stock about 3 years ago, so they're coming 4 years old. So they've really taken in the last 2 years and started to push on. And the two main tools I'm using here are a set of pruners and a really sharp saw. Now the sharpest saw I have on the farm right now is just a simple hand saw. Whatever it is, as long as it's a nice sharp saw, won't leave any marks on the wood. I've actually already gone around all the trees and I left these as an example for you. I want to train these alder to a single leader. And what have you got? Drop it, yes. I want to train these alder to a single leader, and I've got actually 3 examples here beside each other. There was maybe 10 out of the whole farm that had forked off. So these have got 2 single leaders. If we look maybe at this one here, you can see it's a beautiful straight single leader, whereas if we take this example here, it's branched off and now it's sending 2 leaders out. I want to only have 1 leader here, so I'm going to take one of these off, and I want to try and keep it as straight as possible. So looking at this, I'm probably going to take this guy here off, and all I'm going to do is with my saw, wherever a branch comes off the tree, there's like a little collar, and I just want to get right nice and close to the collar. Like so. And now this guy comes down. He can be chipped, or what I'm doing is I'm just leaving it in my tree lane to break down. If we take here this guy here, you can see there's 2 main stems. Now I want to take one of these out, and this one here is actually a side shoot, so he's going to go. Take him out. And there's one more here I've got to fix, which is this guy here, which he's actually gone back to a main stem. He had veered off, but I think he's straightened up again. So I'm going to kill 2 birds with the one stone here. I use this here as pasture, and I want to get my netting right close to this. So I've come along and I've trimmed all the lower branches up to about 4 foot high, and that's to encourage the tree to grow up more. And I'll have a nice straight trunk. So one day when these are harvested for timber maybe, that there'll be some good quality timber. So just with my pruners now, I'm going to start to prune these up to about 4 foot. If I have any bigger branches, I just use my saw. I could just get a big set of loppers as well. I'm going to take this guy here out because he could become don't want to take too many branches off. That one, and this guy. No, that should, take that one there too. That should do it now. Lovely job. Our windbreaks here are doing really well. I think this is our best windbreaks here. These alder, they must be 12 to 15 foot, and this willow here has gone the highest on the farm. This is its third year. I mean, that one there is hitting 20 foot high, and these have all done really well. One thing I noticed is like all this willow up here, it's all the same varieties and planted the same day as this willow down here. But you can see where the competition from the hedge, the blackthorn hedge, has kept these guys back. You know, you would say there's easily a year in the difference. I talked about before how I've started to clean up the side branches in these so I can graze easily. These are some of our new, I just put these guys in. They're in about a week now. It's a week since I shot that other video. They're doing really well. But I'm really happy with the growth of, you can see how we're starting to get a bit of height into our hedge, and hopefully now these guys are a little, this common willow there, an almond leaf, you can see some of the grey willow in here just starting to pop on there. This camera's very bad at zooming in. I've just come into this place. We've ran the pigs through here for 2 years, and now this is going to become our garden. So I've just brought the hook and the sickle because I want to bring the goats in here now to clear all this. So I've already started. I need to clear a line along there. I will put the goats in here for a few days, maybe even a week, to get it cleared up. I've just got the goats in here, and you see they love climbing, and they can go the whole way down there. And I'm just cleaning this up so we can start our vegetable garden. I'll probably do another couple of days in here with them, and then we'll start putting in our garden. Goats are great for cleaning up rough ground, and particularly for putting back the brambles and blackberries here in our case. Just grow prolifically when they're let succeed, and they come in right into the pasture. But you can see here where they've all come in, but we've eaten them with the goats, and they'll slowly die back if I keep on top of them. Saves me coming around cutting them. Otherwise they would use the wire as a trellis, and they would push out at least 4 or 5 foot into the pasture here and just create a maze that would take the whole thing over. Sheep and cows probably will eat them too, but goats will definitely eat them for sure. Goats have done a great job clearing up through here. Time to get them moved on. Oh, come on, let's go, goats. I just ordered and they got delivered. These are going to be for our garden beds, to make raised beds. They're 9x1s, and I'm probably not going to use them for another couple of weeks. So I'm going to store them in on top of the steel in here where I can get them nice and level, and they'll stay and they won't get all bowed, because it's important to keep them stored pretty good. I was hemming and hawing a lot about what I was actually going to do. I didn't really want to do timber because in reality these are probably going to last, like I'd say maximum 10 years at maximum, and they'll have rotted out. But the price of timber and steel has come down quite a bit. My original plan was maybe to make like a concrete kerb, but when I was pricing it up in the amount of work to make like kerbs that are similar to these with concrete, it's going to need rebar, there's a lot of cement, a lot of mixing, and all these cost me like 300 euros across 10 years. That's 30 euros a year. I said screw it, this is going to be the easiest option for me. I'll probably be able to fit all these beds in like 1-2 days, like one full day I'll fit all these, or 2 half days. Whereas if I was going to do the concrete, it would literally probably take me over a week to pour all them, and I'd be using forms that I probably need to pour 1 or 2 a day. So, and they end up it was more of a time thing more than anything. I said screw it, I'll use timber and it'll look nice as well. I know the concrete would be great because it'll be done and it'll be there forever. These will have to get replaced at some point, but I'm happy to kind of trade that time right now. And again, this is all about, it's just finding what works for me. You probably look at that and say like, oh, that's a waste of time, it's going to be gone, and that might be totally true in your instance, and you might say I'm going to get railway sleepers or something. The important thing is trying to figure out what it is you're trying to achieve and getting the best solution to fit that. I'm just down here picking up my 4 sheep. I've been down here for like 3 months since I took them down to the ram. But Dad got the sheep all we call scanned or pregnancy tested. Sorry about the one, guys. But so going to take them up home. They'll be lambing another probably 6 weeks. So time to get them back up. This egg mobile's going away today, so I'm going to pull it out and get it ready to load in the truck. I'll just pull it out in the van. We'll hopefully reverse the truck up here and then just reverse it onto the truck, and off she goes. It went pretty smooth. Just loaded up, ready to roll. Another one heads out the gate. I'm really happy with how all the tree crops are performing on the farm. Now, it was a big thing. I suppose I just wanted to put it into context for people. Everyone I talk to wants to put in tree lanes and that, but it's a massive financial investment at the very start. Now, I was in two minds. Basically where I was at is I decided I was going to give X amount of money to the farm to start the farm. And then I looked at the fruit production and I said, like, that's going to take 10 grand to put that in there. And so I basically took another 10 grand of my own money to do that. And I would definitely, if I had limited funds, I would not have been doing that, because you can't, for me anyway, I think starting off a farm, you're spending. You need to be spending your money in enterprises that are going to return fast, like within that year, and they're going to start making you money. And tree crops are not going to do that. But then there's the catch side of that, whereby that if you don't put, the sooner you put them in the ground, the sooner they're going to establish. And I'm really glad I done it. But again, I could only do it because I had cash available to do that. I mean, I could have very easily crippled the growth of my farm. 10,000 euros, that's a whole layer enterprise setup running that's probably going to be, returning 20 grand, 30 grand profit a year. So you need to be careful with that. It all looks beautiful and it's really good to get it done, but don't strap yourself for cash putting in these crops, because they, it's 5 years minimum before they start returning. And like I talked about before in the past, I'm not so focused on having the tree crops return like a set economic gain to the farm. The way I see it is they're going to be there and they'll produce something, and I've got access to a direct customer base. So whenever they do come into production, whatever I get from them is going to be a bonus. I'm not really going to factor it in. Maybe down the line in a few years I will be factoring in that I'm going to make X amount from fruit, but right now it's not in the plan. So it's kind of like whatever I get from it is going to be a bonus. It's going to be holiday money or whatever. So that's why I look at them. I mean, it's their ecological and their social benefit is what I'm really looking forward to having on the farm. And yeah, I'm actually really happy with how they're. It took them a year or more, because we put in bare root stock just to settle in, and then started to see a lot of kind of growth, and they're really taking vigor in the last year. So I'm excited to watch them over the next few years.